Hi, everybody. This is Stephanie Francisco. I'm Communications Director at Conservation Alabama, and you are joining us for our very first Conservation Q&A video chat. We're lucky enough to be at home, but we miss connecting with our friends and partners and our staff. So we're going to do a series of these video Q&As and share them with you. There's a lot going on right now, which is an understatement, but we want to make sure we highlight some things that our partners are doing, things that we are doing, environmental issues around the country to make sure you see it. So first of all, we hope on behalf of all of us at Conservation Alabama, we hope you're safe and you're well, and we're looking forward to seeing you again very soon, hopefully. And so without further ado, I will introduce our very first Conservation Q&A guest. This is Brittany Stuber. She's our Civic Engagement Director here at Conservation Alabama, and she is joining us from her home in Mobile. Hello, Brittany. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to do this.
Thank you for being my guinea pig.
Yeah, well, I'm always ready to try new things, so forward on.
Right. So, Brittany, for those folks who haven't worked with you before or maybe don't know, what is your day-to-day job like? What does a Civic Engagement Director do?
Yeah, so I am in charge of running our philanthropic program. So I work with our individual members and donors as well as our foundations to help raise funds to do all of the work that we do each and every day. So it's a really exciting job. I love reporting and learning from all of our donors and giving information back about the wonderful work that they're helping to support. Another piece of that is making sure that the communities we work within are engaged. So that's that civic engagement piece. So letting them learn a little bit more about how they can be part of the solution in their community by either helping to identify problems, and also, driving solutions. So how to communicate with their elected representatives, how to call, or if they wanted to schedule a visit even. So just learning a little bit more about how to engage in that democracy and to be an advocate is another piece of my work.
Well, so one of the things I know you've been working on really for the last year or so is wastewater infrastructure in the Black Belt part of the state. And I know you've been working with the Department of Public Health and folks that live in Lowndes County and that area. You've been working on this for a really long time. Could you just give us kind of an overview of what the problem is in places like Lowndes County and what's being done to try to correct it?
Right. Yeah, so wastewater, clean and abundant water, has been a priority focus for policy for us for the last 2 years at Conservation Alabama Foundation. And wastewater infrastructure in particular in the central part of our state, particularly unincorporated areas, is a big barrier to clean and abundant water. So the problem here is that the soil in these areas isn't really a good fit for the septic systems or traditional septic systems that would be installed. So often they fail, and they aren't, because they're in unincorporated areas, they can't and aren't often tied into a municipal water system like many of us that live in a city or a township would. So they're stuck with these failing systems that don't work well in the soil. At that point then, the sewage will seep through their yards. It will often back up into their toilets in their homes. And so it really creates a public health issue for them when it rains, when they, when they're just using their facilities in their home just as a normal person would. To combat this, often what individuals will do is, because the system is failing and the sewage is pooling, they will then do what's known as a straight pipe system into their farther away from the properties. They're trying to remove that sewage farther away so that it's not affecting their kids and their grandkids, and they're not walking through the yard in it. But that creates a host of other issues because we don't really know where that sewage is going, if it's going into a drainage area, affecting groundwater potentially. And so it's a public health issue. It's a human dignity issue. And we really think it's important environmentally as well. And so we're really lucky to have worked with ADPH, the Alabama Department of Public Health. They recognize this is a growing problem that's been going on for decades, not only in Alabama, but throughout the rural South. And they were really kind of used a lot of ingenuity to pull down some funds through the USDA, excuse me. Yeah, so USDA, so that's the Department of Agriculture, and they got almost $3 million to install 100 improved septic systems within Lowndes County. And so we were really excited to partner with them. They've been wonderful working with us. We have done some work to make sure that these improved septic systems are going to people who are most in need. And so 50% of those are designated for individuals who are living in poverty, and that's through an application process. Those individuals get some additional extra help. So they've set aside some funding to help them pay some upfront costs that are included in the program. And we've really been so grateful to some partners and foundations we've worked with that have stepped up to help us continue to raise some of those needed funds.
That's great. I mean, I think it seems like it's one of those problems that, the solution is pretty straightforward. It's just a working septic system for these folks. Like, it's not rocket science to fix that problem. It's just a matter of funding and a commitment and some sort of process, which it sounds like at least part of that is in place. And obviously, so many folks' priorities have changed just in the last month in terms of what foundations are focusing on, what communities are having to focus on because of the pandemic and its impact on our state. Does it look like this project is on hold for a little bit? What do you see as the future of this particular initiative?
Yeah, so in order to pull down that funding, the Alabama Department of Public Health had to come up with 25% of matching funds. So a portion of that is already in place through Alabama Department of Public Health funding that they've used within their own departmental funding to fund this project. And part of it has been secured through foundation grants throughout the state. A portion of that still remains. And so we really know that this is going to be challenging to continue to raise the additional funds needed. So we'll be working with Alabama Department of Public Health to kind of brainstorm what other sources might be available, what new sources might have become available, because we do see in these challenging times, often foundations will step up and put together some emergency funding and things like that to really help fill the gaps that start to arise. But for now, we are on hold. But I think this gives an opportunity to really refine the process and make sure that when we are ready to have the funding in place, we're ready to go, that we can hit the ground running and really install them as quickly as possible for as many families as we can. It doesn't solve the problem for everyone, but we do think this project is a really exciting first step and does begin to bridge the gap for at least a portion of Lowndes County residents.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know a lot of your job as Civic Engagement Director is fundraising and for our organization. And I know you've done a lot of research just in the last week and a half or so on how that job is changing to sort of reflect the changes and the changing priorities of donors and foundations and all kinds of other organizations. And so, I mean, is there like a quick version of what you learned? Are there any takeaways, folks are watching who maybe are not it and have to do some of this work themselves, or who are involved with foundation work? Or what have you learned? I mean, I know it's just happened, but are there any best practices already emerging?
Yeah, I think there have been some really strong lessons that people gained from particularly following the 2008 financial crisis. So a lot of people are really leaning on the lessons learned there to really take this time to refocus on the donors that have been loyal to you, to continue to build those relationships and to focus in on that. I think, a lot of people particularly that use events as a way to bring in new members or to raise money, bring in new donors, this is particularly challenging for them. And so I'm excited in a way to see how these individuals and organizations are able to pivot those in-person, highly involved, sometimes really spectacular events onto an online platform. So I think we'll see a lot of innovation in the next couple of months. I'm particularly excited to see what new tools become available as people start to engage in a new way and with the limitations that are in place for us right now. But I do think that overall, what we've seen in other crises and what I think is probably going to play out here is that people see this as an opportunity to reinvest in the things that are important to them. And now there might be new things that come to light that, now they think, well, wow, I've never thought about how important a soup kitchen is or my local food bank is. And so they might have new priorities or shifting financial and philanthropic priorities. Some people might not be able to give what they did in the past because of their own situation has changed. But often I think at the end of the day, people want to reinvest in the things that matter to them. They're looking for a way to help. We're all feeling a little helpless, I think, if we aren't able to be on that front line of how do we help. And I think that the best way to help is to think about the things that matter to you, the principles that guide your life that make you feel a part of belonging, and to really reinvest in that and to give to those philanthropies, because that ensures that when this is all over and we come out on the other side of this, that they're still here. So that symphony is still here. Those arts organizations are still here, and to keep in mind that they're continuing that work right now. Conservation Alabama and Conservation Alabama Foundation, and we haven't stopped working. And in many ways, the work that we're doing is more important than ever before, because while people are really focused on this, we're seeing some really scary rollbacks in some federal programs, a lack and a decrease in monitoring at the EPA. And so I think more than perhaps ever before that we want to have engaged people that care about the things that they've always cared about. So I take heart, and I think in these difficult times that the human spirit kind of rises up to meet the challenge. So I'm inspired and excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, I think the other day when we were talking about this, you made a good point that, it's important to sort of reject that idea that all of these organizations are in competition. We're actually working together to build a better and more whole community. And I think that is encouraging to me to look around and see all the great work that's being done across all kinds of nonprofits. Our partners, folks locally here in Alabama and across the country. It's, we're trying to kind of keep it together for as much as we can. So when the pandemic is done and we can sort of safely go back to real life, all of those important places are still there. So if people are watching and are interested in making a gift to Conservation Alabama or our 501c3 affiliate Conservation Alabama Foundation, what's the best way for them to do that right now?
The best way, as always, to give is to give online. So you can visit our website at conservationalabama.org/donate. If you want to give to the foundation, it's just conservationalabamafoundation.org/donate. And you can always call me. So I'll give my cell phone out here, totally ready for your phone call. My number is 251-455-4442. Be happy to answer any questions or just to chat, to talk about how you're doing and how you're managing. I always love to hear from our members. And then always you can send by mail. So we are continually to check our post office box, and that information again is online if you'd like to give that way.
Thank you very much. And thanks for being my first conservation Q&A guest. This was fun. It's always good to see people.
Absolutely.